We've got this story about the Crown Prosecution Service because senior prosecutors really are criticised after hiring a transgender activist who made potentially derogatory comments about biological women, you know, women. Sophie Cook, who's 54, has taken up a key diversity and inclusion post at the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, as their speak out champion, despite previously calling for the word woman to be replaced with womx, with an X in it, so woman. In other words, women are sort of erased, womxn, woman, and have also branded certain feminists that she doesn't agree with as TERFs. And in this new role, Sophie Cook is reportedly set to earn £31,000 a year for 4 days' work a month. I don't know. Do you? Joining me to talk about this is journalist Debbie Hayton. Debbie, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Johnny.
Debbie, if we moved this conversation on and didn't have this sort of department, would the world be better off?
Well, it would. You ask yourself, what is the need for this job? You know, it's nice work if you can get it, I guess, £31,000 for 4 days work a month. But why does the CPS need such a role? And why did they give the role to such a political person in an organisation which, by definition, should be apolitical?
And what is a speak out champion? What exactly is it?
Well, it's not clear. I had a look at the job description. I just wish I'd seen this. It seems a lot easier than how I earn a living. Yeah. But it was to encourage people to have confidence to speak out, employees to speak out. But these are adults. They're adults at work. I go to work to do a job. And presumably the employees at the Crown Prosecution Service go to work to do a job. And why we need to employ a speak-out champion, I have no idea. It seems to me that either the HR, if this is needed, this should be something that the HR department should be able to organise, not make such a political appointment.
Why do we have a policy like this in the CPS? And why is it that so many public sector groups, public sector Crown groups like this and corporations are colluding to produce this new diversity and inclusion agenda? Why do we need it?
Well, yes, the equality, diversity, and inclusion agenda. So it always strikes me as being conformity, censorship, and coercion. You know, there's not a lot of diversity allowed here. You either go with the policy or you're in trouble. Why the CPS have needed to do this? Well, you'd need to talk to them about it. But I find it remarkable at a time when government ministers are beginning to speak out against this nonsense. For example, the Attorney General spoke out earlier this week about issues in schools. While government ministers are speaking out, it seems their departments are have been brainwashed into this.
Yeah. You know, the words diversity and inclusion, they're like a dog whistle for me. They're sort of an alarm that goes off in my head because, frankly, it appears to me that when we come across people who are into the business of equality, diversity and inclusion, it means quite the opposite. It means about replacement. It seems to be about grievance. And these seem to be ideas and values that seem to be a very, very long way from justice.
Well, yes, and one thing that's missing is diversity of views and diversity of opinion.
Right.
There's a controlling agenda here to control what people are allowed to say and what people are allowed to think, especially when it comes to transgender issues and the impact of these issues on women and children. There is a coercion and a compulsion to speak a certain way and think a certain way.
I had a conversation with Douglas Murray this week, and he talked about the silent majority being against all these issues, and that the silent majority was overwhelming in many cases and don't understand it but stay quiet. And he said the idea of people remaining silent because they were kowtowed or scared to speak out is ridiculous, because if they are the overwhelming majority, they should just speak.
Well, they should do. But the problem is when people do speak out, there's examples of what happens to people. We can look at J.K. Rowling is the most famous example of it. The pushback that she's suffered from just speaking things which everybody once thought to be true, and many people still do. But the fact is that a few people are speaking out and receiving, terrible treatment for it. That the majority are staying silent, but it's not acceptable for the majority to stay silent at this time. This is important, and people do need to speak up. It's the, if everybody who thought this spoke up, it would evaporate, but people don't. People are frightened into speaking.
And it begs the question, if the CPS are employing someone on this basis, does this erode the trust we have in the Crown Prosecution Service?
Well, I said before, it's a political appointment. They have chosen to appoint somebody who is a political person, has stood for Parliament on behalf of a political party, has some really quite divisive views. Even after the appointment was announced, used the word TERF, which is a derogatory term used against women.
Tell us what TERF means for the benefit of people who may not understand. Is some of it rude?
It stands for trans-exclusionary radical feminist. That's where the word comes from. But it's just become a modern day insult. A modern day insult for women. It's like witch or worse. This term, a derogatory term against women, and to use that term online on public Twitter after this appointment has been announced just beggars belief.
So, does it require government to step in? Because we've seen Nadim Zahawi, haven't we, withdraw funding from the NUS, withdraw support from the NUS over one of their elected candidates, one of their leaders. That actually it needs central government to intervene in this.
Well, it's whether it's government, as in the political our government ministers need to take charge over what's going on in their departments. That's what needs to happen, and not just leave it to officials to introduce policy like this. Perhaps it's only 31,000. It's a small amount of money, but the impact it has on an organisation is huge.
Indeed it is. Debbie Hayton, thank you very much indeed for joining us. 0344 499 1000. Do you think our institutions are being taken over by radicalised ideas that many of us find an absolute mystery?